Ba-na-na-na. All right, folks, welcome to Between the Numbers today. We're going to do it between. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. By the grace of God, I made it in time and thought I'd do a show. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. Of course, the links to our advertiser and the public polling project is in the description below. And then it is a Friday, so I figured we would get along with the Q&A Friday, which we did a little bit of on Monday with Barnes, but missed a couple throughout the week, so figured why not leave a little bit more room. All right, let's reflect on this. Was the persecution, prosecution is not really the right word, is it? Because of course they were trying to prosecute him, but it was a persecution in the sense that it was a political persecution, right? Was the persecution of Donald Trump perhaps the dumbest political move in history? And I know that might sound like a bold claim, but if you really think about it, Donald Trump's political comeback, and we've seen these in history, haven't we? We've seen Nelson Mandela. Bibi Netanyahu has made numerous political comebacks when people wrote his political obituary. Even though, of course, Bibi could win with 30% of the vote, Donald Trump cannot. But we've seen these before, and yet there was something about Donald Trump's that really does set him above and beyond. He's being persecuted, he's being prosecuted, whatever, however you want to say it. And I don't know if he needs a reminder or not, but they're literally trying to kill him to prevent him from winning the White House again. And yet he not only wins, but he wins with a larger number of votes, a larger share of the vote, as what really, of course, is a big deal here. And then from a more diverse coalition than not only he has ever won, but a Republican in our lifetime has ever won. So it's big. It's really difficult to overstate Donald Trump's political comeback and the sheer size of it. All right. And what led to that, right? Because if you go before the anniversary here, a year before, the mindset in the American voter, and I really hope if you guys were paying attention to us throughout the election cycle, you picked up on this grand pivot in the American psyche, which was the moment. And by the way, just to say, not every pollster saw this happening. In fact, it was not common or conventional wisdom that this would happen. It was a bold claim. It did happen, and we were right, and it was a big deal. The moment that the pollster asking the American voter about threats to democracy became less about January 6th and more, and almost exclusively now, about the persecution of your political enemies, right? So before Joe Biden was shitting himself and drooling on himself the entire time. All right. Joe Biden wasn't doing anything until he got an injection in his left ass cheek that jumped him out of his chair for a few hours a day. Joe Biden gave the country up because he was senile. He gave the country to a bunch of 20-something lunatic leftists who had no experience running a lemonade stand and decided they were going to run the largest employer in the world, which is the largest superpower ever in the world. And it did not go well. Shocker. And in an attempt to prevent Americans from following along with every single one of their failures, they decided to manufacture this. Well, the government manufactured, but they decided to really ride this, this threat to democracy narrative. And before they decided to try to put Donald Trump in jail for the rest of his life, when you, and the pollster, mean you, me, right? When the pollster asked the American voter about threats to democracy, the knee-jerk reaction or the image in the mind, all right, guys, book club, sign up for book club. Ken Waltz, Man, State, War. Images. Think about images, right? The image in the mind that manifested when being presented with this concept, right? Or these few words that we string together that really represent or symbolize a narrative or symbolize a story that's really trying to be told to voters, which is what it is. Their minds came with, of course, what? January 6th. And this insurrection that wasn't, right? And despite the fact that there were already, the thing was like Swiss cheese from the beginning. There were already holes all through the story, this whole narrative, but it persisted. It really did for a while. Kevin McCarthy, he did say, I'm going to release all of these House tapes. It went through Tucker Carlson. We did get a little bit drip. That obviously had some impact, but that's not what changed the image. When Americans were asked to drag it up and bring it to the forefront of their mind. The persecution, better said, of Donald Trump is what changed the image of threats to democracy in the minds of voters. We became a huge issue, despite the fact that pollsters really didn't have a good way, at least the way they do it, didn't have a good way to elicit or gauge the importance. They had no way to elicit information out of voters in a way that would make it easy to gauge or measure how important this entire narrative, and really it was an issue. It became an issue, this idea of a threat to our democracy. They didn't have a good way to measure it. We did, or we tried. We clearly caught it, which was at the moment they went after Donald Trump as the moment, not just Republicans, but Americans changed their image when they thought about threats to democracy. Donald Trump would go on and win. He would go on to win the voter who told exit pollsters that threats to democracy was their number one issue. Think about that. Just rewind a little bit. Rewind a little bit to before the midterms. Rewind a little bit to just not even a year after the midterms. That was the dominant image, and that was the dominant narrative that was winning the day. And all of it gets erased in the period of like a year, not even a year. It was gone within 6 months once they started to do this. All of it gets erased. And we're left with a different image, a very dark. You thought that, Democrats thought the insurrection image would be dark, a dark one in the minds of independents. The one that replaced it was just downright diabolical. The government, along with a political party, and now we know, of course, this is what Russia was all about, but the government, along with a political party who's being run, or is the head of it, is a senile old man who's being played by these puppet masters, these marionette people in the background, have conspiring together to arrest and imprison a former president who, at the time all of these polls were being conducted, a majority of Americans wanted to be their president again. That's why I think this is the dumbest political move ever. Now, you got to remember, Donald Trump was not only beating Joe Biden in the polls back then, he was bitch smacking him. I mean, just a beatdown level lead that persisted for months and months and months and months and months, despite the January 6th narrative. And some of the crappy polls, of course, had it, whatever. Remember Gary over at Langer Research? He gets sidelined over at ABC because George Stephanopoulos doesn't like that Trump is leading now by 10, 12 points at one point. I mean, it was 6, then it was 10, then it was 12, then Gary didn't have a job anymore. It was bad. And it was early, and early leads tend to be bigger, of course. We know this. And it would have dwindled down no matter what. But the fact of the matter is, it was very clear that even before all of this, Americans said, or at least enough of them, and we know who they are now. We actually know who they are. We did a whole show on it and a couple of shows with Robert, especially the last one, touching on who these people are. They very clearly said, you know what? I think I made a mistake. We highlighted these people during shows sometimes, and some of them I remember still, like it was just, I can remember their names. I know who they are in the voter record. And they would say, you know what? Yep, I'm so-and-so from Atlanta. Remember this guy? I'm so-and-so from Atlanta. Yeah, I voted for Joe Biden. I bought the whole thing. Hook, line, and sinker. What a load of bullshit. I want Donald Trump back. And yet they did this anyway. So at the time, we're all sitting there wondering, are they really willing to burn this whole system to the ground just to prevent someone from winning an election? And we always wrestled with their thought process. And now I'm over here calling it the stupidest political move or the dumbest political move in history, because I think I just put it in great context so you guys can understand it really was the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen or anyone could have ever done to help facilitate the greatest political comeback in the history of, for sure, the country, if not ever. And I remember talking to Bannon about Cincinnatus and other ones, historical figures. It's a little easier. If you look back and you think about some of, especially those who were well born in history, who made political comebacks, many of these people just had to go to their father's former friend and get backing and bank and raise an army, and that's their political comeback, right? I mean, it's harder in many respects to do what Donald Trump did in modern America and modern West in general, because everything's lined up against you. The way the system works. Back in the day, you raise an army, you break the system. It's that simple. Now, you have to operate within it unless you want to be thrown in a box. And if that system is operating against you, even if you have tremendous wealth like Donald Trump does, you still are incredibly disadvantaged. All of the information channels are working against you. The markets are working against you. The schools are working against you. Everything is working against you, and everybody is working against you. And yet he did it anyway. And I think we have to lay some of that. I mean, obviously he gets credit, but then you have to credit people for mistakes. And now here, sitting on the cusp of all the anniversary of all this stuff, these were mistakes. And they cost Democrats immensely. Now, I don't think, and I'm just different than a lot of other peers in my field. I don't think the Republican primary would have turned out any different. I don't think that the election would have turned out any different. We had gone over this in the past. Even if Ron DeSantis's theory of the case and his advisors, even if their theory of the case was right, their math was wrong. There are not that many educated, especially Republicans and Republican-leaning independents who vote in Republican primaries. The math simply didn't add up. There are not enough of them unless you drag Donald Trump's working class margin down considerably. You cannot beat him. Even in the more moderate states, you can't do it. Just constantly getting spammed. It's annoying. I'm sorry. You have to win some of Trump's voters. There was just never a way for Ron DeSantis to put together a winning coalition, especially not in the early states, like one where he threw his entire hat in. He put all of his eggs in one basket, which was Iowa. Nikki Haley, she effed around and found out, even in her own home state. They registered and they got Democrats to vote in considerable numbers in New Hampshire and in South Carolina to try to prevent Donald Trump from winning these primaries. Along with that and the educated vote, the credentialed vote, he still won kind of easy. The math was just not there. Going to Joe Biden, which then flipped to Kamala Harris, he still would have beat them. Whoever, which one, it doesn't matter. It does. The lawfare just helped, I think, reinforced it. But I actually do think he still would have beaten either one of them. It was this recognition, and the lawfare just kind of like solidified it. This recognition that people made a mistake and that they would really like to have a do-over. And if Donald Trump's going to run again, I think I want Trump back. It's kind of that simple. All right. Or at least it is for the normie voter. And I think we sometimes overanalyze stuff, you know? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to actually go, yeah, I mean, if it's cool with you guys, I'll actually go through. I kind of just want to have like a little bit of a back and forth here. I wonder if I could show the locals' comments on, I don't know. I wonder if I could show the locals' comments, if there's a way I could show it to everybody else on the screen. Can I say this out loud? Oh, I don't know, Andrew. Let's kick this one around. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to bring that up today. I think we can, and then we're going to go to all these other things. I just don't know how we overlook this. And I do think that it is, look, I remember going on Sebastian Gorka when this happened. And then I remember them piling all of these charges on top of him. And I went on Sebastian Gorka and I said, there's already this trend with non-whites, but this is going to exacerbate this trend considerably, especially among non-whites who are below the age of 45 for two reasons. They all have the man's out to get me mentality. They all do. But the difference in their mentality is by age group, is generational. And if you're above 45, you're either still infected by, or your parents infected you, or family infected you, or society in some way infected you with the civil rights mindset. And you still live in that era, or people wanted you to live in that era. So it's maybe not as strong if you're 50 as it is if you're 85, of course. But it's there. And you can see it, not that there are no defectors, but the fact of the matter is it's much less likely to change someone's mind if they are an African-American voter above the age of 45. Below, however, not at all infected by the civil rights mindset at all. But they still think the man's out to get them. And when they looked at somebody like Donald Trump, who was being persecuted, much the same way that their black and brown brothers are persecuted every day, they felt a kinship in some crazy way with a white billionaire from Queens, New York. And you guys have to remember that Donald Trump was actually part of the black culture for years before he ran for president, and the Democrats decided that he was public enemy number one. By the way, Snoop Dogg did a good rant over this, and you guys know I can't stand that guy. I don't like rats at all. Do the crime, do the time, homie. Feel me? Dog. Nice new kicks, though. I was shopping for my kids to get kicks. The new Snoop Dogs are actually kind of cool. I was like, damn, guy made a cool shoe. But anyway, yeah. So, he's actually a pretty good embodiment of it. But even younger than Snoop. And then you just, and I remember going on Gorka and trying to explain this, and Mediaite making fun of me. And I remember it was like an hour after the damn thing aired. Gorka was like, oh, did you see this? And I'm like, no, Seb, I didn't. What is it? He's like, oh, Mediaite loves you, bro. They love you. And they're just making fun of me and Dr. Gorka, saying that there was this kinship. Oh, yeah. And there are people out there. There are right-wing pollsters who are constantly arguing that Trump is going to do somehow better with black voters this time around. Can I get an apology, you shit rag of a website? Anywho, right? He did. Without the prosecution, plurals, without the prosecutions, would it have been a smaller trend? Because the truth of the matter is it was a trend. But did it really blow it up considerably? I think it probably did. You guys got to remember, the popular vote, little bit screwy sometimes. This was an election that wasn't really that close, right? It really wasn't. All right. Now, was it Barack Obama, John McCain, blowout? No, but let's see. I don't know if I attribute that to personality, but that's an interesting chart. Who shared that? I have no idea who that is. John Byrne Murdoch. Oh, he's a chief data reporter at the Financial Times. That's why he looks kind of... Actually, he does look a little bit familiar. Why are they attributing this to TV? Let me show everybody what the hell we're talking about. Is this a full thing? It is. Can I scoot it around a little bit, or did he personally cut it off? I got to zoom out. Give me 1 second. It's 150% zoomed. All right, that's good enough. All right, let me show you guys this. Freewheeling time. Like I said, freewheeling Friday here. I wasn't even thinking I was going to make this, and I thought, let's not do it inside numbers. Let's do it between the numbers and talk about what I want to talk about today, which is the anniversary. Plus, Pepper said that I should do more shows like this anyway. So I'm all over it, Peppers. I will do more cultural stuff too. Young adults' personalities are changing with consciousness left in free fall. Okay, so we're going to start. My initial reaction before I even read any of this, guys, all right? My initial reaction is they're losing younger kids. They're losing younger voters. By they, of course, I mean that they are liberals. They're losing younger voters, even if they know, and they do. Everybody knows they're not going to show up in the midterms. At least not right now. They're not, guys. They're not. They're just not. But they're losing them, and they want to make fun of them. There has been this narrative since they realized they're starting to lose grips on certain generations. You know what happened? I do think they're going after TV. They're going to go after social media over it. They're going to not even go after them. They're going to say it's their fault because they have lost the direct monopoly on the pipeline of information to, the 18 to 29-year-old crowd, right? Young adults' personalities are changing. Relative change in strength of different personality traits. 2014 average equals 50 by age group. Okay, here we're doing relative values. I don't like that. Values are expressed as percentiles of the full population distribution as it stood in 2014. Okay, they're using relative value here. They don't have any baseline for beyond the year 2000 or earlier than the year 2014. Let me just try to explain this to everybody in layman's terms. So they're using it as a baseline. By the way, the Consumer Confidence Index does this using 1985, I believe, as the baseline. All right, so it's a relative value. That's a really good question. Let me tackle this first, and then we'll get into that. But that's a very good question about Texas. All right. Okay. I will read as I show you the graph what he's saying. New. Oh, he does go after the internet. I thought you said TV. Oh, no. This is definitely internet. Yes, they're absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Because David Shore, who is the biggest pollster in the Democratic Party. All right, you guys don't know who the hell he is, but he runs one of the biggest firms in the Democratic Party circle, right? Public opinion firms, research firms, and he interviewed some like 100,000 people, and to tell Democrats why they fell on their faces, excuse me. And his conclusion was, we lost control of these younger voters, these whippersnappers. We lost control of them, and the internet is unfortunately not filtering what we want them to see anymore. And yeah, we're going to have to change that. So here comes the social bias campaign against getting your news from the internet. All right. That's what I'm just going to knee-jerk say, and I bet you I'm about to be proven right. Is the internet changing our personalities for the worse? Consciousness and extroversion are down, neuroticism up, with young adults leading the charge. Honestly, there is a legitimate conversation here, but we should have had it 20 years ago. It's too effing late now. This is a real consequential shift, and there's a lot going on here, so let's get into the weeds. The problem is, I think the events that are being portrayed on the internet are more to blame than the internet itself. The real problem that they have right now is that they don't have Mika Brzezinski stuffing it down their throats in some twisted rose glass bullshit. You know what I mean? So they're just getting it for real. Plus, they have their own lived experiences. And are they more neurotic? They are more neurotic. But exactly. That's why Hillary Clinton goes around saying we need to censor the internet. That's why they all want to censor the internet. They knew that they were losing control of these younger generations, right? And even those who go to schools, the internet is helping to indoctrinate. I was going to use another word. To reverse indoctrinate people that have been twisted up. First up, and I'm sorry they took so much. I need water. My body needs to make more blood. First up, personality analysis can feel vague, and you might ask why it even matters. On the first of those, the finding of distinct personality traits is robust. This field of research has been around for decades and holds up pretty well, even across cultures. That is true. On the second, studies consistently find personality shapes life outcomes. There we go. In fact, personality traits, especially consciousness and neuroticism, are stronger predictors of career success. Okay, if he means it like that. Career success, divorce, and mortality than someone's socioeconomic background or cognitive abilities. But here's the problem. Here's the argument. Okay. Did experiences shape those characteristics earlier on than when they enter the societal, the parts of society that he's discussing? All right. So high divorce rates, maybe your parents lost their house during the Great Recession. Your older brother went to Iraq and died and never came home. All right. Did these things impact someone's, and there's an argument on whether personality is inherent or whether it's learned. It could be learned. For me, there are certain traits that we have that I think we are probably born with. And a real short thing, I'll give you this. I think I've given some of you before, but there's this great work by, she's actually a Christian doctor, so don't go crazy. But I heard this, you said that, right? And she will give personality tests in the beginning to her subjects, and you'll take it too if you want to do it. It'll put you in a category. You can have, of course, a sub personality that is like, for me, I'm a red. I'm about control and dominance, but I also have parts of blue in me that are more obviously analytical. And it's weird because of what I am and what I do, but that's my dominant personality. Even though I'm very good in analytical in various things like that. Whereas it could mean different things though. Like Laura is primarily a blue, and she has, I think, a little red. That's her secondary, but she's a blue, and she's the kind of person, and I think a lot of you girls are out there. You like your lists, right? Your lists, you know what I'm talking about, right? Some of those things I think you're just born with, and then the rest comes with life experience. Neuroticism isn't something you are born with. You are not born a neurotic, or at least vast majority. Something happened to you that made you a neurotic, right? So this isn't as cut and dry as he's making it out, and he wants that to be. All right. Highly conscious people, dependable, disciplined, committed, otherwise known as Reds. Fare best of all. They live the longest. I don't know about that. Succeed at work. Their relationship lasts. This makes sense. Life isn't just about knowing what you should do or having the resources to do it. It's about following through. Consciousness is especially critical in the modern world. Life today is full of temptations, from hyper-engaging digital media to online gambling. The ability to ignore it all and put long-term well-being ahead of short-term becomes a superpower. Generative AI could supercharge this dynamic. A high C student might use an LLM as a personal tutor to strengthen their knowledge of a concept. Their low C counterpart might task the same LLM with writing their essay, foregoing knowledge acquisition altogether. So that's consciousness. Okay. I think they're splintering off on too much here. All right. I just think you're throwing a whole lot of shit. Like, is everybody in this study like a confirmed user of these things that you're just bringing up? out of nowhere. This is the problem with like reading into things like this. Do you know that somebody in this study that that you're making an assumption about? Do you know they use Chat GPT or an LLM? Are you certain of that, or is he just? I guess I would have to see what is this FT analysis of the Understanding America study. I mean, honestly, in order to answer this any better, I really would have to look at how they did this study. But this is interesting, very interesting. Let me just read the rest of his thread if you don't mind. God, no, he's gonna go on forever and ever. F that. Some people don't know. Shut the hell up, bro. You wrote an article on the Financial Times about it, bro. Like SFTH, bro. Is that it? Wait, no, STF, STFU, bro. Like, you wrote an article about it. This is a 50 tweet thread. Who the hell is going to read this? Did you read all of this? I want to know if you read all of this because this is crazy. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not even going to count it. Online dating. Again, I just don't understand how you're making this leap. Understanding America study. I'll review it and I'll get back to you guys on this. It's cool, but I have to know how they did this study. I don't know why they're just using random websites to make their point, and that makes me uncomfortable unless they're not random. You understand what I'm saying? If they know, if people in this study were like confirmed users of the various sites that he brings up in that thread, then I would feel more comfortable commenting on it. If they're not, this is garbage and speculation. It's just you don't know why they're acting like that. It could be something completely different. Political events in a country also shaped an entire generation's personality, or like certain things about them, a neuroticism, right? There's been other cases of countries that have like a generation of neurotics because of certain things that happen in that country. It wasn't necessarily due to the internet. I have to review that study. I really can't comment anymore about that, but I think it's pretty clear that there are plenty of studies that do show that younger people are more paranoid. They're more skeptical. I want to tell you this without saying it's fair. It's characterized as a higher mental illness. I'm just not sure that that's fair. Guys, defend me. I'm about to say something very stupid. I think it's very clear that the number one group in the country that suffers from mass mental illness is middle-aged white women. I think that's very, very, very clear. They are the ones who are most susceptible to social biases and always want to be part of the crew, right? They're the ones who are telling doctors, I want to kill a bunch of babies because I don't want my breasts to sag, not because I have like a legitimate reason to snuff out a human life. They're the ones who are looking on their phone and crashing into everybody. That's the statistics, because they just don't give a shit about the world around them. They don't care that there are other people. They suffer from mass narcissism. And they're also the other ones who slam the door on your face when you're running for office, when you want to talk about how other people may not be faring as well as they are. So I'm uncomfortable with throwing this concept of like mental illness on this younger group, because I think they are just like an inevitable product. Maybe it is, and maybe it is, but I'm not sure that it's bad to be paranoid. If you're the child of like my generation or a little bit older than me, I think we probably did something to these kids to make them paranoid, right? Even if they're good kids. I mean, they grew up to see what the hell the flower child generation did to their parents. And then, by the way, how their government treated them, right? Multiple financial crises, stupid ass wars, COVID. You strip these kids of 2 years almost of their lives, wrap their faces in diapers that don't work, stole away their proms. You told some of them, hardworking girls, that a guy can pretend not to have a penis and beat you in a sport that you've been working your entire life to perfect so you could get a scholarship at school. Like what Is that a mental illness, or is it more like a rational response to the world they're living in? I mean, just it makes me uncomfortable, makes me uncomfortable. And sorry, ladies, I don't mean all of you, but I think we know what I'm talking about here. I am a statistician, and we do use generality. We deal in generalities. Drive up the road to any shopping plaza. Just drive up the road to any shopping plaza, and you tell me. You tell me. All right. All right. Let's move on back to politics before I lose my female audience. I'm not saying all females. And I know I got a lot of females in the audience. I think females are predominantly my audience. So you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all freaking women. I'm talking about the overeducated white woman, the sorority chick from Nerds, who now is like, can I say that? I just had a political candidate just text me watching the show and said, I've knocked on enough doors to confirm this. Like, right. These are these people. We all know who I'm talking about. Revenge of the Nerds, the hot girl who drank way too much. So now she's like 55, has done $30,000 of plastic surgery on her body, votes Democrat in every election, has lips out to here, drives a Mercedes, and doesn't give two shits about anybody else in this existence. The only one who matters is her. They're crazy. They mass called out of work on my wife after Donald Trump won the 2016 election because they were crying together. A personal cry group. They met up at someone's house and they didn't leave, and they'd been sobbing all night long. I go to take my daughter to O2B to go to work. I didn't sleep all night, of course. It was an election. I go to drop my daughter off, and I can't leave my daughter at O2B because these white women are hysterical crying. It's not normal. Teachers, thank you. They're teachers too, unfortunately. It's true. Eat that, Mediaite. All right. It's 90%, bro. It's 90%. Family friend. Barely made it into being a therapist. Her entire education and early career was a bunch of left-wing white women trying to sabotage her. Her whole story was it was a national story. It was news. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. Her entire academic and then early career was under attack by psychopathic, narcissist, left-wing white women who their problem with her is that she was a Christian. And that she also didn't want to dump 50 years of study data on transgenderism, otherwise known as gender dysphoria. She didn't want to dump that because it became the new cool thing, and which is, again, a major problem with this group of women. Everything, they got to be the latest cool. They got to be the latest progressive. They got to be the latest this. They got to, God forbid, they don't get invited to the Tupperware party or something at the end of the week. They're problematic, man. It's true. Run for office, knock on a door. Tell them you're running because you're sick of your fellow citizens suffering at the hands of the political class. You'll find them. Hey, Rich. Let me see if I can get some. I need to get some water here, crew. Can you give me a second here? Man, I'm thirsty. By the way, let me just show this. 1 second, crew. This is the philosophy, winning back these women that are never coming back. Winning these people back, this group back, is the philosophy behind dumbass decisions like the one you see on your screen right now. Holy hell. You ever lose so much blood you feel like you could drink like an entire town's water tower? Oh my God. That's another thing. I don't mean to go dark here. I'm not meaning to go dark. I'm not meaning to get grisly, but that's why, um, if you don't know, you'll find out. Hopefully you never will. But if you've ever seen a man bleed out or something, I mean, people who blood loss, even from being shot, I mean, you lose so much blood. You're incredibly thirsty. It's really tragic to watch, but loss of blood leads to extreme thirst. Right, but this idea, by the way, Holly, right, in Oakland County, where Mr. Rogers over here was supposed to be such a rock star when he was in Congress, Trump outran him. Not only did he not run stronger with the educated white woman, because Trump ran about 3 points ahead of him with them, but he also ran behind Trump on the voters that you sacrifice when you pander to those women. Black men, white working class men of all ages, working class women of all ages, particularly below the age of 55. I mean, it's just Hispanics. Right. John DeMarte is another great example. That's exactly right. He was supposed to win the white women and the Hispanics. I'm sorry. I just think it's like, I usually call, there's Ohio. I usually, try to point out all the dumb things that Republicans do. This is a show that's supposed to be about, like, when it comes to taking the cake, Democrats took the cake with the raid on Mar-a-Lago and then subsequent indictments to follow. They just overstepped. Rich, I think that the raid on Mar-a-Lago was the first time they tried to kill him, going in to steal back the Russia docs with STK authorization. And Garland seemed upset that he wasn't at home. Oh, I remember this, crew. I remember this. And not alerting his Secret Service detail, as if, like, remember I went on Sean Parnell's show? By the way, our friend Sean is doing well. Pray for Sean and all of the good people who went to go and serve in that shithole town for Donald Trump and for you. It's a great guy. That's the thing. There were a lot of good people are working their asses off. But in any event, do you remember I went on Sean's show? I do. I remember this. I know what you're talking about, crew. And they didn't alert the Secret Service team, as if they wanted a shootout or something, crew. As if they wanted a shootout. And then Garland almost seemed like pissed that he wasn't there to get in the crossfire, right? By the way, I think that's like why some of Trump's voters are so pissed off. And I mean, do I really have to show some of this? I don't want to turn this show into this, but I could say, oh my God, this is a big deal. I got to break this. Breaking news. When did this happen, Mary? Oh, it happened today. Ooh, this goes with what we're talking about, so I'm not interrupting for nothing. But it is important because you're never going to stop or really. Okay, let me just finish my thought. Then I'll show this and it'll make sense. What I was going to say, crew, is I think this is what's behind a lot of people do remember this. And it's what's behind a lot of frustration that you have Janine Pirro going out and saying, I'm going to make anti-Semitism my priority. Like, many of them are already starting to view you as Israel's bitch. And you're doing like that instead of talking about making the people who really hurt Americans and hurt you and, the priority, right? So I think that's a source of a lot of people's frustrations. And again, then he comes out and he endorses all of these god-awful people who are going to continue to allow that kind of a system to persecute their own supporters without protecting them. What did Lindsey Graham do when the federal government was persecuting Donald Trump supporters? Anybody? Cheered. He cheered it on. January 6th protesters were insurrectionists, even though I can tell you, and I know this for a fact, Lindsey Graham was absolutely one of the senators who told Donald Trump, and everybody was behind that strategy, that if you pull this off, I'll be there for you. And then he got what he always gets, a jelly spine, because that's the kind of a bitch he is. And he folded on Donald Trump, and he folded on you. He folded on all of you. There is one person that everyone's trying to push to replace him. There was another who had a higher name recognition, but he's basically a career loser. A nice guy. And one of the other challengers, friends. But then you have this other dude, who looks like, I don't know, like a bad Elmer Fudd candidate. It's a joke. He would lose the state in like 6 years. I really do think that. I think the South's going to get more competitive in some of these states because Republicans are not moving in unity in the direction they should be moving, and that some of these once very deep red states are not going to be very deep and very red for long if Republicans don't follow Trump and Trump doesn't follow them, off the cliff. And then, so that's where it is. Anyway, this is a big deal. The only other, because Mark is like, I'm talking about Mark Lynch. I'm sure he's a really nice guy, but guys, he doesn't have it. I watched a stump speech. It was awful. It was like cringe awful. And it's not even that. Everyone needs a justification. Like, why? What's going to make you the right guy to fight the deep state? What is going to make, who are you? Right. And I can self-fund is not an answer to that. That's not an answer. But it's the answer the NRSC wants. But they don't want it against Lindsey. But like, it's an answer a lot of these other people want, even fake MAGA, because they don't want to dip into their own pockets. They just want to profit off of anti-incumbent fervor. Okay. Andre Bauer was the only other serious one there. He's out. So he's saying after deep prayer and reflection, and that's why the entrance of Paul Dance into this race is such a big deal, because it basically leaves Paul Dance as the only viable alternative to Lindsey Graham. Mark Lynch is not a viable alternative, folks. I'm not saying this because I'm friends with Paul. It is no secret I am friends with Paul. I'm not saying that because I'm saying it because I've pulled it, and I pulled it in a detail that other people haven't, and it's also just my experience. I've been doing this a little bit. He will lose that seat. He'll win because he'll win in an easier to win midterm year, and he will go on to lose in the next election. I'm not kidding. Lindsey, and he knows it, was pretty damn close in recent years, and Donald Trump bailed him out. And Trump's trying to bail him out now to reciprocate, and the guy still can't crack 45%. And that's without anyone even attacking him yet. The worst attack he's dealt with so far was in Paul Dance's announcement when during his announcement speech he said, Lindsey, you're like, I think he was 73, whatever he is. You're a 73-year-old childless warmonger with no skin in the game. That was like the most wicked attack he's gotten so far. Andre, who paid like 60 grand for polling, as I understand it, decided he's not going to run. After deep prayer and reflection, I've decided to suspend my campaign. Decision does not come lightly. I entered this race with a servant's heart, believing that our nations need leaders who are grounded in truth, integrity, and faith. But I believe now, more than ever, that in order for us to truly move forward, we must stop tearing one another down with lies and division. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened here. Andre was jockeying for an ambassador position or something else, and I can almost guarantee somebody from the White House probably called and said, hey, what do you want to get out of this race? Because listen, we said we cannot tear each other down with more lies and division. What are you talking about? It won't be through slander or selfish gain. It will be through unity, humility, and a shared desire to honor God and serve one another. I pray the remaining candidates can do just that. I am deeply grateful to all who supported this campaign. He's cooked, and he never took off. Truth be told, nobody really had any name recognition advantage. I'll stop there. That reeks of sellout to me. I'm sorry. He's coming out with the fake Reagan commandments. All right. It's funny when they only break out the Reagan commandments when it's cover to, it's like they're using it as cover or as a shield against criticism because they're all turncoats. Never happens in the Democratic Party. This is such a good question. I love this question. How stupid is the current move to call gerrymandering in Texas a threat to democracy? I love this question. And you're not going to like the answer. The answer is I don't know. I want to say it's stupid, though, Matt. And I think this is why I think it's stupid. It's based on the whole thing of what we're talking about in the first part of the show. I think Americans now know what the real threat to democracy is. And pretending gerrymandering is on par with what they did and using the same terminology. Eventually, even if it's fair, Americans go, you know, I've heard this before. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And they just don't buy it. So I think you're probably right. Your suspicion is probably right that it is incredibly dumb. But I will say this, and this was what the show I think was about on Wednesday, right? Republicans are being reactive once again. They are. Now, I'm not sick and tired of it because, I mean, it is what it is. But I will say this, just like it's so fake. The Democrats' concern for gerrymandering is so fake. They're concerned with the representation of disenfranchised or minority groups is so fake. In fact, what they did was disenfranchise everybody. What we do with the census, like I went over on Wednesday, disenfranchises every American citizen. And in the case of Texas, the voter, if we're just looking at core groups and we're getting past like what we spoke about on Wednesday, which was every American's being underrepresented in the census. They're all being screwed and diluted and weighed down. Their citizenship is being diluted by the counting of illegal aliens. It's disgusting. And it's something that like nobody in the country supports doing. They want a pure census, a native census. The worst part about it is, if we're just going to use their lingo, the subgroup that's being disenfranchised the most by the current map in Texas is actually Hispanic voters. They don't want to redraw this map and represent these especially newly naturalized, which is crazy. They don't want to do that because they're Trump voters, because Trump won them and they don't know what they're going to do with Republican candidates. Maybe in the short term, it won't be that big of a problem, but God, if it ended up in the midterm or a longer problem, it could really hurt them. So Democrats are actually seeking to disenfranchise these people, and they already did. They're seeking to continue to do that. And we saw that, by the way, in Albuquerque. Used that example on Wednesday. They diluted white, lower income and middle income voters, and they also diluted working class Hispanic voters. And they stuffed them in a bunch of communities that are filled with the Valium sniffing, educated voter that we were talking about 10 minutes ago. And they used them to more than counteract them or balance them. They used it to dilute their voting power. And this happened everywhere. Republicans are just spineless and stupid. And that's why they're in this position. Did I not hem and haw for a year? And nobody listened. They don't listen. So it's like, you're so lucky Democrats are stupid, like Matt's talking about. You're lucky Democrats are that radical. They're that crazy. And they're not actually stupid. They're just so fanatical that it causes them to do stupid stuff. They're actually very smart, at least when it comes to stuff like that. Damn, are we at the time already? Yeah, I tend to believe this, Base. I really do, because of so many bad things that happened in Gen X and millennials' lives. And then think about, for a millennial like me, what do you think I'm teaching my kids? To be a stupid, trusting boomer? No. And I don't mean to offend all boomers, but you are the generation of blind trust of the G-man. How'd that work out for you? Actually, it seems to have worked out pretty well for you. Everybody else got it, but you're all right. Can you tell the People's Pundit's a little unhappy with certain people? Well, it's like at some point, you either have to take advantage of the opportunity you have and stop being so damned selfish, or it was all for nothing. It appears nobody has the balls to do that. Except for Robert, also, who's taking a shit ton of flack. I will be at Robert's little shindig, helping raise money for victims of lawfare who can't defend themselves, while all of our critics are on social media being Twitter tough guys. Do something! I tend to agree, though, bass player. We're going to make sure that the next Kyle Rittenhouse can have a defense, you know? While you guys run around, you're anti-Semitic. You were so bad in the midterms. David, I kid you not. You got to see some of these things. By the way, the generic ballot was flawless. Like, and somebody threw like this generic ballot. I'm like, that's not my poll. I don't know where you got that from. That's not my poll. In fact, I think somebody probably photoshopped that during the DeSantis campaign. I think it was the DeSantis campaign to try to discredit our polling, showing him getting his ass kicked to Donald Trump in the primary. And then they took that because it was floating around on the internet and they threw it back at me. And they were like, saying, tell it to Grok, baby. Tell it to Chat GPT. Even the AI knows. I again, getting back to this, I think there's a lot of things going on here, and I think it's really stupid to just throw it on certain websites. Like, that's what's bothering me with that thread base. That's just sitting bad with me. There's causation and correlation, of course, and then there's just straight outright assumptions. And I think that we're really getting into some dangerous territory when you just make these jumps and make these outright assumptions about, you know what, that's why Tinder's the way it is. What? Tinder caused it, actually. Wait, what? Chicken before the egg. It bothers. Like, that guy's the chief data journalist. That's terrifying. I mean, maybe I got to go through the study and maybe it'll be right. And every single one of those sites is accounted for. I doubt it, but we'll see. All right. Yeah, but I tend to agree with you. I think there's a combination of things, and there's a backdrop of don't trust X, right? Not the social media network, but don't trust X, don't trust Y. And there's recent experiences in recent history that absolutely validate that view. And so it's constantly being banged into them and reinforced by the events around them. And that shit, if that doesn't make you neurotic, I don't know what doesn't. I don't know what does. And I'm not sure that means, I'm not sure that equates to mental illness, because sometimes being paranoid, sometimes being neurotic keeps you alive, keeps you ahead, keeps you successful. You can even see it in the animal kingdom. Why would we be any different if that's what our current environment is? Freebie. Okay, many in chat have asked, did you write and record your intro to the show? Second, you seriously need a moderator in chat on Barnes Days. It's chasing away your subscribers. Why? There's trolls, you mean? You're talking about trolls, Peppers? I did not write it. I mean, I never write my, well, first of all, let me know if you're talking about chasing away. I don't like the concept of banning people. You know, like, I'm not one of those, and that's, I mean, actually, let me keep that up there. I never did like the concept of banning people. I don't like our good friend Larry Schweiker. Okay. Great example. I mean, the minute you say something that he doesn't agree with or doesn't like, it's like, oh, now you're banned. Okay. Larry, you just banned, and Larry's a huge Trump supporter, right? So it's like, Larry, you just banned an otherwise stalwart Trump supporter because you think Trump is awesome all the time. And this person thinks he made a mistake and should correct. Like Larry does this all the time. Like, I don't want to be that kind of person. So I want to leave channels open for debate. And now, if there's nothing that I can do, if there's no good faith, if this person is not being in good faith, Peppers, then yeah, I mean, we can start to think about, getting rid of those people. I've noticed even some of them are subscribing to locals just to be able to get into locals. Somebody was going on and on the other day on the show about how I deleted their comments. So here it's funny because we were getting two sides of this now. You're saying to moderate more. This person went nuts in the comments saying that I removed prior comments of them. I didn't remove shit. You have to say something so vile in locals. I wonder if I could show you guys this. Explicit, like, things about raping women. Disgusting, explicit names for homosexuals. Like, really bad stuff, guys. This is the only thing that will auto trigger the moderator on locals and immediately remove a comment. And by the way, it still would have to go to me for approval. So, well, it will remove it and then it will ask me, do you want to reinstate it? And I mean, so here I have, this other guy going on and on, basically telling moderation, let me look at review. Nothing. There's nothing in there to review. I did reply to that person. I just simply said, like, nobody touched your damn comment. If you said something, it was because you said something so vile, you got automatically booted. And I imagine you mean on YouTube, right? The chat with Barnes, because there's certain times with Barnes that he brings a crowd in with him. Our YouTube is usually pretty good. All I do is click subscribers, and only they can, and you got to be a subscriber for a certain amount of time. Maybe I can extend that time too, because maybe that's something to do. And we'll just get the most dedicated trolls known to man. But I did notice, and I'll tell you what, that Peppers really just became like a new thing with the criticism of a certain policy. All right. And I have come to learn that they are some of the most vile trolls on the internet. All right. And of course, I am talking about the pro-Israel trolls. They are the worst I think I've dealt with yet. That includes Hillary Clinton's, Barack Obama's, any of the Republican nominees who hated me for saying Donald Trump was going to win. Because I've been, gone through this before. Trump's own trolls during the first Trump administration, we dealt with this too. Robert Mueller was a good guy, remember? And if you said Robert Mueller was anything but a good guy, then you were, a traitor trying to take down Trump. Like, guys, I'm a freaking public opinion pollster. Like, by definition, I'm not a traitor. I'm not like your buddy. Like, that's it. Not you guys out there, but political candidates. Like, I'm not there to please you. And that's the problem with this game. They want you to flatter them with your numbers and your bullshit. And if you don't, then you become a target. And you could also become blacklisted. But I never built my business to need that. So I'm insulated from the usual games. Does it hurt? Sure, it hurts, but it's not going to end me. So I'll deal with it. I'd rather be able to walk straight up with my head up every day. So, then it's not worth it, to me. The rest of that though. Oh God, man, I'm going to answer that. I love that question. But yeah, I never write, I never record. Except for when we used to do interviews with Freedom Gold. They just became too long. So I would record them and put them separately until we just stopped doing that. And I still love the guys at Freedom Gold, just that we can't accommodate that. I'm not turning my show into that. So I never record anything. I do want to start to record some of the advertisements, because it would be nice, Peppers, if I had like 30 seconds to a minute to drink some water or hit the vaporizer or something. Like, it just would be nice to do that. But I don't do it. And I can't think of a single example when I ever recorded it. But do I write them? I write bullet points. It's the same way I give speeches. I can't write a verbatim speech. Never could. I know what I want to talk about, and then I go, so I have to, however, you still have to prepare. So like, I know what I want to say, and I basically just try to go off those bullet points. Yeah. And yeah, we'll look into what we're going to do with that moderator. Man, I'm getting blown up left and right now. Why? Matt, let's go to Matt. Hogan's top 3 matches. Oh, give me a second. God, this is tough. Give me a second. Because Slaughter was such an enormous impact on me. Hang on. Andre the Giant. I know that's a cop-out. It was no massive athletic ability. But as a child, everybody, the hype was like, will he slam Andre? Can he even do it? Can anybody slam Andre? And of course, he was slammed before. So I don't know. Man, though I'll give you this, Matt. The worst match. I will probably put the Ultimate Warrior in there too, because Hogan did what people say he didn't like to do, which is just pure bullshit. He did it. I saw it. It was horrible. As a Hulkamaniac, and my older brother too wanted the Warrior to win. Great job, Eddie. How do you work out as the hero of young children everywhere? And he's a conservative too, the Ultimate Warrior, but he is not a great hero for kids. Guys, you think Hogan used one racial slur when he thought no one was listening and it became a big thing. Like, the Warrior has said some, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll chill with the Warrior any day. Like, he is definitely the kind of guy you want to sit back and have a beer with and talk and just shoot the shit. He's cool as hell, but he's rough. You know what I mean? He's rough. But Hogan passed the torch, as champions are supposed to do in that business and are expected to do, even though it sucks. Andre did it for him, and he did it for the Warrior. Now, they had to bring Hogan back because the Warrior did not work out. They had to bring Hogan back for that. Man, the Undertaker match was good too. I'm going to have to go with Andre, Slaughter, and the Warrior. Let me know what you think. And because I do like that match with the Warrior, because let's face it, he still won. The ref was knocked out, Matt. The ref was knocked out. Hogan still won. Bullshit. The press. Like, a press is going to do anything. You throw me up in the air and I fall on my face, and I'm going to get up and kick you in the balls. Like, that's what's going to happen. You kick me in the face with a size whatever shoe that Hulk Hogan is going to wear, and you're down. You're down. It's the great thing about wrestling. Everybody knows, but everybody doesn't know. You know what I mean? That was the great thing. The intro music. Did I write that? No. They were promoting Nick Fuentes. This is, I think, what bothers me the most about all of this crap, Peps, that like all of these people calling us anti-Semitic. This is the stuff that pisses me off the most. Like, Robert debated Nick Fuentes and called him anti-Semitic. Like, Robert has been a huge defender of Israel and their conflict with, Palestinian statehood. But that doesn't mean you give everybody every bit of rope to hang you with because they're doing immoral things. I know it's that time. I know it is. And I got stuff I got to do even before that. I will say this too before I go, because I know that's and no, I did not write the intro music, but I really just need to find a way to record it. I really just need to find the best way possible to record it. What else though? There was one more thing I did want to say. real quick about that. I think I do, and I'm gonna step in some mud. Good job. I'm gonna step in some mud doing it, but I really do think I want to do this show that we've been researching on why Christian evangelicals, or how they developed this relationship with Israel. So how did this connection with Israel become? Because I had asked this all the time. Why are evangelicals and why are other Christians in America so, or at least some of them are so defensive? And why are they such strong defenders? And the answer is really twofold. And one is, not all of them are, especially anymore. And that's something that the right, because they're political figures that have been part of the system for so long, are older. They don't understand that those cultural evangelicals that Robert and I highlighted so much during the election, they are not. And they're over this, like what they this bond, it's like unspoken agreement where God called you to defend Israel against everything. That's horseshit. It's horseshit. And they're over it. And if people don't get to realize that soon, they're going to lose some of these voters. And then the second thing is, there's a history there that explains this. And I don't think you guys would like this history very much, but it's true. And someone's got to talk about it, regardless of what they get called. I don't care, because it's not one of a spiritual. That's all a crap. That's for you to digest. It has always been a financial relationship, a business relationship. And if we went to the tail of the tape, for the people who started this movement or started this connection, this relationship, if we did a where are they now, or who are they now, I think you might be surprised. So yeah, I mean, this is not an easy decision to make, but I think we're going to have to do this. All right, I got a boogie woogie. She's right. It's 3:15. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. Nothing but love for you. I talked about this, and I know she just walked out. Otherwise, she would say it too. We've been talking about whether or not we actually want to do something to recognize people who contribute to the Public Polling Project. But there's so many people who say they're anonymous. I don't know that everybody wants that. Just know that, of course, we absolutely value that you do, and share it far and wide. The number of people, that do, increasing that makes it so much easier on everybody else. And, that's it. The deal. Monday, I will be out. As locals knows, I have something I have to do health-wise. And I don't think I'll be able to talk afterwards. That's what I'm told. But we'll see. Right. And if I'm up to it, I think there's no reason why we can't do book club. I think, right? It's not, unless let me just get my time straight. I gotta, I don't know, not eat fast. I'm gonna try to just sleep up into a very early time in the morning, because I have to quit vaping. Man, I gotta quit vaping, and I'm not even allowed to vape a certain time before this thing. I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is going to be terrible. So I think, they say, eat early, do what you got to do, and go to bed. So I may try to do that. I'll see. But I think I'll be just fine Tuesday. So I'm going to shoot to make up for Monday on Tuesday. And then let me look at the clock right now. Let me look at the calendar right now. And I'll tell you guys, some of you probably bought tickets, honestly, so you already know. But Saturday, the 16th, which is next Saturday, I'll be in Tennessee with Barnes. I'll have to probably travel on Friday. So just get ready for me to mix up the days a bunch. All right. All right. So then that's it. It's 3:16. I'll let you go. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, have a great weekend. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers, and I will see you Tuesday. All the best. Kick it.